Yeah, my story starts in 2006. I've been quite. I've always loved South Africa, and I was there like for. I've been traveling quite a lot when I was young, and I loved South Africa. And really, South Africa just to go on holidays. But then at some point, I thought like, well, why just spend my money on touristical things? Why not like do something worthwhile? And so I started looking at the internet, like mark this, trying to find places that were like trustworthy, because you never know what organizations you might find that maybe take your money but don't pick you up or whatever. But the Vervet Monkey Foundation I found like in different travel organizations like promoting. And so I thought, well, maybe that's something for me. I got in contact with the VMF saying like, okay, I'm 42 at this stage. I'm like 42. Probably I'm maybe too old to volunteer, but I really want to do something with my life before I get too old. And so I got an email back saying like, no, we even have like volunteers 75 years old, so 42 is still really a nice age to come over. So that's when I decided to go. Went there in October 2006 for the first time for 3 weeks. And I can remember that Josie at that time picked me up. And we went, it was not even a cabin village we had at that time. It was like still in tents we were sleeping. She took me to my tent, and then next to tent village at that time there was, it's probably still the cage, where the babies were kept at that time. And she took me to the baby cage, and there was this little one little monkey who immediately started talking to me. And Josie said like, well, that's quite strange, because it's not obvious that they would start talking to a stranger. But maybe because I was Flemish and she came from an Afrikaans family, that she might have recognized sounds or something. But she went completely crazy the first day that she saw me. So Josie said like, probably normally the volunteers have to stay outside for a few days, but I might take you in already tomorrow in the cage and see how she is, because Felix, little girl, was quite high ranked in the troop. So the next day she actually took me in, and this little monkey jumped on my head and kind of never left me anymore in the 3 weeks. And I can remember I might cry now, you know. The first that evening I actually called my mother, and I was like crying like a baby, and she said, oh my God, what's happened? Isn't the place good or what? Because you can always come home. And I said, no, it's really, really nice, because I don't know what I felt, but I've never been married, I've never had children, and I think this little girl actually brought like mother feelings in me. So I stayed for 3 weeks, which was great. Cried my eyes out when I had to leave. Already on the bus to Joburg, I was thinking like, okay, I have to go back to see if Felix would still recognize me if I went back after a few months. So and I already started planning my next trip, which was then in April. For 3 months I took my holidays from work and then 2 extra months unpaid. Went back, and actually Felix went crazy again, so she still recognized me. I spent a lot of times with then the babies who were over a year old at that time. And then something really bad happened, because I went home like on the bus. I was thinking again like, I have to come back for more. And when I get home the day after, I think I got an email from Jay-Z with in subject saying your girl. And she strangled herself in the cage. And sorry, we don't know if she actually got strangled with playing or with fighting. But then I thought like, okay, this is it, I can't go back. Cried for weeks at home, and nobody really understood what happened. But then a bit later I really thought like, okay, it was Felix, she touched my heart, and I have to go back for others to help. So I took a year off in 2008, went back for the whole year. We had loads of ups and downs that year, but we managed to get through it. And then I went back home, back to work, but after a year being in the bush and working with monkeys and just going back to an office job. Mark, you know as well, it's not fun. No. So after a couple of weeks I resigned, got my 3-year visa and went back to South Africa. I came back June, I think 2009, but then unfortunately in December 2010 I broke my ankle, both sides, had to go back home. And since then I've been back to South Africa, but also visiting other sanctuaries to see how they work. And now we had a couple of problems at home, so since 2014 I haven't been in South Africa again, but at the end of the year I'll surely be going back to spend time again with the monkeys, because I've always said if you either love South Africa or you hate Africa in whole. You either love it or you hate it. If you love it and the monkeys even touch your heart, you won't. There's nothing else that can replace that nice experience, I think. So I can recommend it to everybody to go. That's,